the Tour of Britain gets underway. Stellar performance here then by Bradley Wiggins. Simon Yates coming up to the line. What a ride! Oh! What a tight finish that was.
Hello, welcome to Kelso in the Scottish Borders for the finish of Stage 1 of the 2017 OVO Energy Tour of Britain. The riders rolling out from the capital, Edinburgh, today. In a week, they'll be finishing the 8th stage in Cardiff. Bit of a Celtic feel with a large chunk of England in between. The weather here, well, the sun's just about coming out. A little bit breezy as well. Not bad for a bike race, but it's not going to be easy. It never is.
He's looking for it, here comes Greipel. Greipel takes it, first place on the line. McClay, or was it Groenewegen? It's Jack Bauer that takes the stage. Cummings comes through, that's the man that we were waiting for. Caleb Ewan's going to take it, Caleb Ewan takes it on the line.
I'm really pleased to say I'm joined once more on the Tour of Britain by my absolutely favourite Super Domestique retired pro, Janto Barker, G to my Froome dog this week, if you will. Janto, lovely to see you. Let's just reflect briefly on last year's race. Steve Cummings doing a great job fighting off the likes of Rowan Dennis and Tom Dumoulin to take the jersey.
Yeah, he did. He had to fight every single stage, pretty much. There was quite a few climbs and some bad weather conditions. And yeah, it was quite close as well. So he did a good job and, you know, showed his class then again this year by winning his national titles on both road and time trial, but yeah, last year was a difficult one for him.
Unfortunately, Steve is not here defending his title this year. He's off in Canada racing the GPs in Montreal and Quebec. He will be much missed, but not too much, because there's plenty of British interest this year as well.
There is, and it's also quite an open race, so I think you'll see lots of riders. You know, you've got your Lawlesses, your Owain Douls, Geraint Thomas coming from the Tour, obviously having won the prologue there, and there'll be plenty of people to cheer for out on the roads here this week.
Plenty of fast riders. Mark Cavendish back from injury as well here at the OVO Energy Tour of Britain, because the parkour is really going to suit fast men like him.
Rolling out from Scotland's capital, Edinburgh, the race immediately makes a beeline for the borders. Stage 2 is the longest at 211 kilometres, while Stage 3 loops through Lincolnshire for the first time in 8 years. The race rolls through Robin Hood country in Stage 4, and the next day's time trial is a classic 10-miler along Clacton's seafront. Newmarket to Aldeburgh is through some of East Anglia's most beautiful countryside, while the penultimate stage traverses southern England, concluding in Cheltenham. The 8th and final stage of this year's Tour of Britain finishes in another Celtic capital of Cardiff.
Janto, the route around Britain may be flatter this year, but it's by no means pan-flat. There may be no Cat 1 climbs in the Skoda King of the Mountains competition, but there's still plenty of hills to get over.
There are, and there's also weather conditions. There's a bit of wind in the air today, I've noticed, and there'll be some exposed sections. It's going to be an interesting mix of the GC and the sprinters. Can the sprinters actually make it over all the climbs? We've got, you know, the last climb today is 25 k's to go, which will offer an opportunity for guys to, you know, really assert themselves on the race, and if they've got good legs, then try and get to the finish. And the peloton's obviously going to want a bunch sprint.
Two former world champions really catch my eye this week in Michal Kwiatkowski, who won that solo, and also Philippe Gilbert, who's won loads of races solo over difficult surfaces. Both of them could do something this week, couldn't they?
I think so, and I think especially if they collaborate together a little bit. Obviously, a couple of guys together will be stronger than individuals, but the roads are grippy in the UK, everyone knows that, compared to European roads, which are a bit smoother. So it does start to create extra fatigue throughout the week as the days go on.
Plenty of your favourites to keep an eye out for as well, especially Mark Cavendish, coming back from injury to race at the OVO Energy Tour of Britain this year. Let's hear now from the main contenders.
we've got a strong team with Team Dimension Data. If I can help them in any way, obviously I'm going to try my best. Edvard Wassenhagen won here 2 years ago. I know we can do it on this course as well. And it'd be a great little confidence boost out of the World Championships for us.
I think I'm in a really good moment. So the shape is on the top. I come from amazing last week from Hamburg, four win in 1 week. So I think it's the best week in my life on the roads, on my road career. So I'm really happy to come back to Tour of Britain with this shape.
I have been out and recce'd the TT. It is good for me. It's a bit more technical than what the map and profile suggests, which probably could be the same for the whole Tour of Britain. Like, on paper, it's a bunch sprint every day with a time trial that could decide GC, and what helps is there's a lot of sprinters here as well, so hopefully they will spread the bonus seconds out as well. However, it is also the Tour of Britain, possibly one of the most unpredictable races on the calendar. So we're going to have to take each day as it comes, attack each day, I think, instead of the usual waiting for the normal sort of what's predicted to happen. Because, yeah, and I think that's basically how we're going to do it. And we've got a strong team here with Movistar that can do a bit of everything.
Yeah, it's obviously a bit different to normal. You know, first race back after breaking my collarbone and crashing out the Tour. But yeah, I've had some decent training days now under my belt, and I've just been looking forward to coming here and racing in the UK, really. And yeah, I think we got a strong team here as well. You know, we've got Elio, who's obviously in great form, so it gives us a real purpose and something to really race for. And yeah, just excited about racing on home roads again.
Next up, at the start in Edinburgh, Rob Hales managed to catch up with the fairly newly appointed Chief Executive of British Cycling, Julie Harrington, to assess the health of cycling in this country.
How is it back at base, at the coalface, as it were?
I think what's really important for us across British cycling is to make sure that the kids who are inspired by events like this today are given every opportunity to get on their bikes, and things like the network of Go Ride clubs that we've got across the country give the opportunity to make sure that in the future we've got top class GB riders who are going to be filling the shoes of some of the stars that we've got racing today.
It's absolutely fair to say that in this decade, cycling in Great Britain, starting with, I guess, Wiggins' win at the Tour de France in 2012 and Froome's domination in the Tour ever since, it means participation has gone up and up and up as well, Janso. Do you think it's going to carry on doing that?
I think it's a really good question, and I think it can, and I think it will. Events like this that contribute so much to getting people out on the roads, out on their bikes, and show people the exciting part of cycling, which I remember personally seeing for the first time when what was then the Tour of Britain came past my house and I was 12 years old, and I've made a whole career out of it. And I think there's plenty of young riders who you'll see out on the streets this week who will equally have been enthused and excited by what they see and come back and participate more and more as they get older.
The crowds have been brilliant in recent years, actually getting out to watch their favourites. Let's talk about a few of those. Firstly, let's talk about Mark Cavendish. It's good to see him coming back from that injury. We were all upset to see him suffer at the Tour de France. Can he actually do something this week, though, or might it be a bit too soon?
I think he will, and I think when he's got a number on his back and he's on the start line, he does have an autopilot, which is, killer instinct, and that's part of his character. So there's a lot less pressure on him, and I think he'll appreciate that, which means he can just find his legs, get into the rhythm, and find a result where it comes.
Let's have a look now at today's stage.
Starting in Edinburgh, stage 1 then heads along the coast before heading inland for the first sprint in Gifford, quickly followed by the Category 2 climb of Redstone Rig. From there, it's downhill for the second sprint in Coldstream before the peloton pays a quick visit to Kelso. The Cat 2 climb of Scott's View comes next before the final sprint in Melrose. The last climb is at Dingleton before the finish once more in Kelso. Centuries of history meet a vibrant modern city in Edinburgh. Old Reekie is celebrating 70 years of the Fringe this year, the largest annual international arts festival in the whole world. Dotted throughout the city are inspiring historic sites alongside museums, landmarks and 5-star restaurants and hotels. Situated in the cycling-friendly area of the borders, Kelso lies at the junction of two rivers. Famous for its salmon fishing and rugby, Kelso also claims the largest square in Scotland, the Bull Ring, plus the five-arched bridge was the model for London's Waterloo Bridge.
OK, that's quite enough hot air from me right now. Let's get straight to the action with our commentators Brian Smith and Marty McDonald.
Thanks for joining me, Martin McDonald, alongside me in the commentary box, Brian Smith. And Brian, it's not always the case to get to show the race in its entirety, so we get to see a completely different dynamic to coming onto a stage later on in the day.
I like to see the first set-up of the race. The first hour is normally a very aggressive attacking style. We don't often get to see this, and you know, it's great that we're getting line to line here in ITV for the complete oval Tour of Britain this year. And you know, to start here in Edinburgh is absolutely fantastic. And in previous editions of the Tour of Britain, we've seen finishes here as well. But yeah, it's a great start to the day.
And the riders get underway on stage one, so 190.1 kilometres await them from Edinburgh to Kelso. So we go through the city of Kelso for the first time after 111.4 kilometres today, with about 69.3 miles remaining, 78.7 kilometres to go. We'll then loop round where we'll take in the climbs of Scott's View, the sprint at Melrose, and then the King of the Mountains at Dingleton before back in towards the finish. You'll get an opportunity to see the finish. And you can see at the front as we roll away from the starts through some of the amazing sights that we have here in Edinburgh, the St Giles Cathedral and the Royal Mile. So this is situated between the Holyrood Palace and Edinburgh Castle. On post chain reaction moving up here in the green and white. Watch out for them. They're the team from Ireland.
Nice to see also at the front Mark Stewart from Dundee, the person in the centre of our pick, or just to the left now, in the green and the yellow of An Post.
There's beautiful Edinburgh Castle, very imposing up on the hillside. And they fire the gun at 1 p.m. every day from Mons Meg. And it really is an incredible looking fort. Just really dominates the skyline here in Edinburgh. The riders rolling out from the start past the Meadows, one of the most popular open spaces in Edinburgh. And it's the main water supply to the old town. It was drained and turned into the beautiful green space that it is now.
This is Arthur's Seat, an extinct volcano in the heart of Edinburgh. You get some fantastic views from this part, as we see many of the tourists up there to get the prime spot to look over the city. It was actually in 1970 hosted the Commonwealth Games road race round Arthur's Seat here. Very difficult course. I was fortunate to be here in 1986. When you look at the teams that have come here, I think the favourite for today has to be Elia Viviani. And when you've got a team of Geraint Thomas, Owen Doull, Vasil Kirienka, former world champion, and then Mikhail Kwiatkowski, Elia Viviani, Theo Geoghegan-Hart, that's a super team. And then look at Lotto NL Jumbo with Groenewegen, who won the last stage of the Tour de France, Lars Boom, former winner of this race, Victor Kampenaerts, the European time trial champion, Primož Roglic, the stage winner over the Galibia. It's, you know, Van Emden, Van Hark. It's a fantastic field.
Kilometre zero, and the flag drops is straight away Ian Bibby and Rory Townsend. So JLT Conda and Bike Channel Canyon trying to get in the early moves, and you can guarantee that the team managers from both those teams have set these riders today the task of making sure that they get into that early breakaway. And straight away you can see two riders followed by a group of five just trying to clip off the front. So 188.5 kilometres remaining, so we will be here for quite a while. So you can see the rollout. The helicopter just pans back. Beautiful scenery. Bibby and Townsend. Good, strong little group here. Just a little look around. Straight away, One Pro Cycling getting themselves onto the back. It's like James Oram just trying to come across. It's a strong trio already, 3 of the British teams.
Yeah, Pete Williams for One Pro Cycling has joined them. And he is, I think, over the last few years, one of the most aggressive riders in the Tour of Britain. Winning the sprints competition and a couple of times, winning both the King of the Mountains and sprints competition in 1 year. So really no surprise that Pete Williams, he loves this race, wants to get in the mix, but so many other riders and teams being represented, and you can see straight away that too big and the race being shut down already.
Welcome back to stage 1. After a number of attacks, a group of 8 riders finally got away up the road after 16 kilometres of racing. A crash at the back of the peloton helped their cause, with Dion Smith coming off worst of those who hit the deck. The Wanty Group Gobert rider managed to get back on, somewhat battered and bruised, but seemingly none the worse. The breakaway are approaching the first sprint as we rejoin Brian Smith and Marty McDonald.
Gorka Itzagide just flicks his elbow, the universal sign that he's done. And now they're lining up for the sprint. Mark McNally opens up for Wanty Group Gobert. And Karol Domagowski's right on the wheel. Here comes Rob Partridge on the right. McNally's lining up for this one. And it looked like McNally just managed to take that from Domagowski. And Partridge right on a little corner there.
Yeah, it was out of sight and well placed was Mark McNally. It looked as if he got that from Domagowski with Rob Partridge. Not a notable sprinter, but he was there at the right place, taking third spot there. And Rob Partridge is finished 2010. He finished 8th overall. We see it again from the front. And Mark McNally riding well, taking it on from the front. Domagowski, little space to take the second place there, just in front of possibly Partridge. But I'll tell you what, Graham Briggs was at the back there, you know, maybe possibly looking for the sprint, but that one you had to take it. Kind of came up very quickly on the riders, and I don't think Briggs had the knowledge of that sprint, and unfortunately he missed out this time.
Very experienced rider Mark McNally. You've seen him in breakaways, race in, race out throughout the season. Targets the intermediate competitions. So the riders will be racing for the red, white and blue Iceberg Sprints jersey, the alcohol-free wine brand that are doing a lot of sponsorship in British cycling. Sponsor the Tour Series. They back Dame Sarah Story's Story Racing team as well. Good to see all the fans making their way out on to the climb, especially seeing a lot of our young fans as well with their who've been out here on their bikes, clearly, to have a look at the race. So this group now lining up for the first King of the Mountain sprint. Gorka Itzagide just moves through on the left, the Spanish rider, and the peloton start to fan across the roads. Itzagide, number 195 there from Movistar in the blue. And Connor Swift just locks himself onto the wheel. Briggs out of the saddle on the right there. He missed out on the sprints. First sprint of the day. Halcyon just on the left. Partridge digging in deep here on the back for Bike Channel Canyon. And a real experienced head is Gorky Tsagide. So they'll just be looking for that King of the Mountains point. As it goes across the road, as we said, it's in the road book at 137.7 kilometres to go. So they get signs along the side of the route just to let them know how far they've got to the sprint. Jacob Scott in the green, just nodding, got a real style that always looks like he's working really, really on the limit. Jacob Scott. Partridge moves through. Looking like he wants to try and line this one up. And again, you see the shift here. Riders now up onto the big chain ring as they head towards the summit. Connor Swift not drifting too far from the front. Connor Swift for Madison Genesis. Looking like the young rider has designs on this Skoda King of the Mountain sprint at the top. So we've still got a little ways to go till we get to the summit.
Yeah, we're over the steeper part. The steeper part was right at the bottom there, but it kind of just drags up over the moorland.
And there it is ahead of us. The riders will just be able to glance up ahead and just see that summit of the climb. The gap still holding strong at 2:51. Sky and Orica Scott controlling it nicely behind. Briggs potentially will try and launch himself for this one. McNally has won this King of the Mountains title in the past. As we've said, he's already picked up the first iceberg sprint of the day. McNally opting to stay on the little chain ring while some of the other riders have shifted up. But our breakaway, the real continuity of our break on this climb, we're seeing them shift from echelons across the road, and as they change straight back into the pace line across the road, a little drop down on the climb here before it kicks up again towards the summit. So first day here in the OVO Energy Tour of Britain, so whoever takes the stage today, of course, as well, pulls on that first green jersey.
But there's no denying where the summit is there?
Not at all. Plenty of flags at the top. Spectre sprint now for this one. Domagowski from One Pro Cycling. And the Sheep just having trying to keep pace with our breakaway group. Doing so nicely. McNally pedals through to the front. Sir Alcyon out of the saddle in the orange for CCC. Partridge rolling that big gear. And our breakaway group, you can see now they spread across the road as they try to line this one up now for the summit. Who can take the first King of the Mountains points here in the OVO Energy Tour of Britain? And it's Scott that makes his move here for on-post chain reaction. Good move by Jacob Scott. Connor Swift right into the slipstream of the rider in green. Swift off the wheel now. Connor Swift makes his move and takes the first points over the top. So it was Swift from Scott and Partridge and Alcyon. Looked like they would share out the next points. He looked really good all the way up that climb, didn't he, Connor Swift? He really controlled that one nicely. Just takes a look back over the shoulder just to see where the group are. Definitely a competition for Connor Swift to try and target in this race.
You can just see he just pushes out the An-Post rider and goes for it. But good reaction there from the Madison Genesis rider, Connor Swift. Just in a slightly bigger gear and just comes by him just before the cattle grid and takes the maximum points. 6 points for Swift, 5 points for Scott. Partridge is coming over to take the 4 points with Alcyon taking the 3 points. Graham Briggs in there in 5th place.
The border town of Coldstream saw the second iceberg sprint of Stage 1, with Graham Briggs of JLT Condor taking it ahead of Mark McNally of Wanty Group Gobert and One Pro Cycling's Karol Domagalski. The peloton then headed through today's finishing town of Kelso, where the crowds showed the shape of things to come. As we pick up the action again, we're heading to Scott's View and the second Skoda King of the Mountains climb.
And now Geraint Thomas swings off the front in that black sky jersey. Rob Power comes through in the blue and yellow, followed by Mikhail Kwiatkowski of Team Sky. So some of the general classification riders here, Brian, starting to come through.
Yeah, a lot of nerves now, and really important to just do a turn at the front, a lot safer as well. But I don't think it's enough. It was a good effort by BMC. If you've been caught out sitting at the back, then yeah, you've probably lost the back of the peloton. But yeah, it's meant that a lot of these riders now have to be a little bit more attentive. This is the main group. As we start to pan back, we can see another group, about a dozen riders. A few of these riders caught out by the fact that they were sitting too far back. We just mentioned it earlier. You have to be very attentive in this year's Tour of Britain.
So split now into a few considerable groups. You can see the diagonal formations here, the echelons starting to form, the crosswinds, riders scrabbling around, trying to get back into the wheels. And this is, it can be agonizingly close at in this situation, can't it, Brian? You can see that group, that next group, 20 meters, 50 meters just in front of you, but you just can't get there.
Yeah, you can just see the group starting to get back. They've left some of their riders just behind them, but I'm not too sure it's going to burst apart, this peloton. BMC, Katusha in the red as well, Tony Martin just coming to the front. They're pushing on a little bit, but most of the strong teams well represented at the front of the peloton.
The Primož Roglic, former ski jumper, turns his hand to cycling. Coming to the summit of the Skoda King of the Mountains here in Scott's View. And it's Lucas Alcyon that goes over the summit, as we expected, ahead of Karol Domagalski. And we'll have a look back to the peloton as they crest the summit of Scott's View, just to see who manages to come through. And it was Connor Swift that took the first one, and is that him managing to move himself up towards the front to try and pick up some more points in this King of the Mountains classification?
Gilbert, this has come to the front. It's definitely not Dan Martin, but the riders are starting to come to the front, kind of starting to force the pace a little bit now. The riders from Quick Step, so it was actually Laurens de Plus that came towards the front. Gilbert is coming up to have a quick chat with him. And now we see Team Dimension Data with Jay Thompson coming up. But just on the outside there, you can just see that Connor Swift trying to get into the points, just failed in the end. May have got 1 or 2 points. He won the first, but that's what we were saying a little bit earlier. Being a little bit more attentive, and maybe if he'd gone, he was strong enough to go with the two Polish riders. He wouldn't have probably had to do that. So Jay Thompson for Team Dimension Data taking up the mantle at the front of the race, just looking to see if Swift got any points, and I don't think he did.
Domagalski pushing through Melrose here for the Iceberg Sprints jersey points. Iceberg is the leading alcohol-free wine brand. So Domagalski takes maximum points there. Mark Cavendish, just looking back at his teammates, just having a look. Looks like Cavendish maybe dropping to the back of the peloton here.
Bosenhagen coming up and just having a look. Is he going to get it? Oh. It'll be very close there between the Sky Rider there and Bosenhagen, but Bosenhagen looks as if he could have taken that 1 second bonus. So straight on to the final climb of the day, and that's the climb of Dingleton, 1.4 kilometres in length with 7% maximum.
Scott Thwaites moves through to the front for Dimension Data. Mikhail Kwiatkowski moves up into second place for Team Sky. Let's have a look at the replay from the overhead shot here, Brian.
I think from very difficult for a helicopter, but I do think that Boasson-Hagen may just have taken that. It really depends on the judges, and we'll wait for confirmation on that. So for Domagowski, looks as if he will be the leader of the Iceberg Sprints jersey competition. So job over for the One Pro Cycling rider. But Olsen still has a job to do. He wants to take as many points at the top of this climb. Whether he can stay away in this climb really depends on the peloton behind.
Lucas Alcian now of CCC goes after the summit of this climb. He wants to make sure that he takes maximum points. He was fourth over the first climb, first over the second climb, and as the peloton start their charge behind, the Polish rider now wants to ensure that he can be in a position here, even if he's not first over the summit, Brian, if he can manage to stay up there and take as many points as possible. But just doesn't look around.
Look behind and kind of willing him on here, because obviously big effort throughout the whole day. We like to see the breakaway riders get their just rewards, and I think he's got about 600-700 metres to go to the top of the climb, and he's given it absolutely everything. But so is Scott Thwaites at the front of the peloton, trying to line it out for a potential attack from Boasson-Hagen.
Quite ominous now, Dimension Data at the front. Mikhail Kwiatkowski sat second behind him for Team Sky. So we've seen quite a few different jerseys. There's Boasson-Hagen just sitting in third. It's Lucas Alcian here. Scott Thwaites just dragging back that gap now. Fernando Gaviria moving up as well. The CCC riders recognise that their man's about to be caught. What a shame for Lucas Alcian. Really tried here to take the points over the top of this one. It's not to be, though. They go through that 25-kilometre to go points. Orica Scott, again, you can see all the sprinters teams as well, just trying to bring their sprinter over the climb. You can see Caleb Ewan, the Orica Scott rider, in the centre of your picture there in the blue and yellow. And quite a few riders now getting tailed off on this final climb. It's been quite a tough day out there, hasn't it, over the run from Edinburgh to Kelso. A lot of headwind sections, a lot of open sections. Kwiatkowski has a look around just to see what's happening in the group. So a lot of movement a little bit further down that peloton. Seen the jersey in the familiar style of Geraint Thomas moving through. Gilbert is very much to the front as well. He's just trying to bring Gaviria up. So Fernando Gaviria is still here. Bit of movement, a few lime green jerseys of Cannondale Drapac, and trying to keep themselves up towards the front. He's doing a great job here, Scott Thwaites.
Well, most of the sprinters are still there. Gaviria's towards the front, Caleb Ewan is still in there, and you just see Owen Doyle and Geraint Thomas looking after Viviani, so they're all there. But you rightly said, the rider from Team Dimension Data from Yorkshire, Scott Thwaites, pushing hard on the front, not really splitting things up, but making it very difficult. What he's trying to do is try and take the sting out some of the sprinters' legs. Primož Roglic on the left-hand side in the yellow, and the outside keeping attentive towards the front. So this is a good tempo by Scott here. You just see Kwiatkowski, former world champion, sitting in second place. So a few riders starting to grimace a little bit, but this job by Scott is just trying to hurt some of the sprinters, so to try and make it a little bit easier for Edvard Boasson-Hagen to try and win the stage. But BMC are looking to do something with Ben Hermans in the left there in the red.
Ben Hermans goes on the attack for BMC. Laurens de Plus, Edvard Boasson-Hagen and Tony Martin immediately answer the call, as does Mikhail Kwiatkowski. Gilbert gets across the gap. Hugh Carthy in the green for Cannondale Drapac as well, the young British rider on the Cannondale Drapac team. And Serious move now on the front. You can see the Orica Scott riders just grimacing as they try to hold this group together. Interesting riding as well. Tony Martin, the World Time Trial champion, has had quite a lot more freedom this year with Katusha Alpecin, and making sure that he keeps well up to the front. Philippe Gilbert moves through as well, but at the moment the pressure of Hermans has not split this one. A lot of the sprinters will just still manage their way over the top of this one. Good to see Hugh Carthy getting up here in the green of Cannondale Drapac. And Carthy maybe looking at trying to take some King of the Mountains points here as they go over the summit of the final climb of the day. That's Dingleton. Let's have a look back down through the group. The peloton still very much together at this point. A few riders getting tailed off. There's Ryan Mullen in the Irish Champions jersey, just going through your picture. Kwiatkowski just has a look round for Team Sky.
I tell you what, Lawrence de Plus, they're taking that maximum points out there. I don't think it'll be enough. You can just see it here. De Plus being very attentive and coming around Hermans, taking the maximum points here, but with a fifth place in the previous climb, Scott's View, and a first place here, that gives them a total. I don't think it will be enough to take the Skoda King of the Mountains, but I think Olsen could just possibly hang on and take that jersey into tomorrow's stage.
Welcome back. So we're about a kilometre outside of the finish line, just outside Kelso. Pretty windy, Anto.
Yeah, it is very windy. I think most of the riders will be in this left-hand gutter as we're coming into the run-in. Maybe not on the lap to go, but definitely for the finale, which we're now at like 600-700 metres to go to the line.
I tell you what, if they're on deep section wheels like we are, they're going to really catch the wind. It's sort of a cross headwind, it feels like.
We're going to take a left-hander here now, a slight rise up to the bridge, and then we take a left.
It's a sharp left, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, at 50 k's an hour, that will be quite sharp. And there's also a narrowing of the road on the bridge itself. So this is really important now for positioning, so as everybody's where they need to be before they start that open up sprint with about another 100 metres to go.
Just approaching 300 metres to go, so they'll be starting to think about their sprint finish here, Janto, won't they?
300 to go, we're just approaching now. It's going to be all about last final calculations on when to time the effort, make sure you've got a space to accelerate into. There is a slight chicane here, which the guys will have to look out for, because if you're coming at 60 k's an hour, which they probably will be doing by this stage, they just need to be careful. What we've seen in the past with the barriers moving inch to inch.
Yes.
Slight curve before we hit the cobbles.
Just past 200 metres to go now. Then we hit the cobbles. Now look, it's not exactly Paris-Roubaix, but you certainly feel it on carbon wheels, don't you?
Yeah, when you're trying to lay down 1500 watts, back wheels jumping, everything's moving around.
And those lighter riders are going to feel it too.
Absolutely, and it's now all about trying not to die at the line, because the cobbles do sap out that energy if you've got lost any rhythm.
20 metres to go, 10 metres, and we're across the line.
1 kilometre to go now as Kwiatkowski really trying to boss the front of this race. Number 52 moves now through to the front for Orica Scott. Mies gets on the wheel. Ewan is there, but Alexander Kristoff in that white jersey has got the wheel of Caleb Ewan. There's Elia Viviani of Team Sky. They've done all of the work. It's now going to be the lead out here of Orica Scott. Dimension Data trying to come up on the outside. It's all for Edvald Boasson-Hagen now in this sprint for Dimension Data. They swing left from the front. Mies gets Ewan, and Kristoff and Boasson-Hagen are battling for the position on the wheel of Caleb Ewan. We're seeing Quick Step Floors jersey just out of picture at the moment. Fernando Gaviria, they're now going to line this one up for the finish, and they're looking for the cobblestones as Edvald Boasson-Hagen gets the inside line. Caleb Ewan tries to come off the wheel of his teammates. They're onto the cobblestones. Caleb Ewan down the centre with Boasson-Hagen, and it's going to be Caleb Ewan on the line, and right across there a throw to the line. Edvald Boasson-Hagen very, very close there in the sprint. They were bouncing across the cobblestones. Alexander Kristoff was up there as well. And Boasson-Hagen made the jump, but a great lead out there for Orica Scott.
Well, what a finish to the first stage there. Still waiting for confirmation on that. That was a blanket finish there. As they came into the straight, it was Edvard Boasson-Hagen that took it on from the front. As we see from the replay there, Lucas Meisgetz was on the front with Caleb Ewan propped on the wheel, but then the battle between the Norwegians as Edvard Boasson-Hagen pushes Christoph off the wheel of Caleb Ewan. He wanted that wheel. Viviani then slots onto Christoph's wheel, but Boasson-Hagen in third place was just waiting. He knew he wanted to be the first onto the cobbles. And just as it opens up here, he decided to go on the left-hand side. It opens up. Christoph tries to follow, sits down, tries to follow. Viviani is on the wheel. Caleb Ewan goes to the right. They hit the cobbles. You can see them sitting down, bouncing all over the place. Viviani coming up the inside on the left-hand side. At this moment, Boasson-Hagen was in front, but Caleb Ewan was pushing. And I think almost held off. A blanket finish between Viviani, Boasson-Hagen and Caleb Ewan, a very close one in the finish, and it's down to the throw in the end. And I tell you what, I can't tell you who won it, but I think Caleb Ewan might have just got that one.
It's a great slow-mo here. Boasson-Hagen bouncing through the cobbles here in Kelso, looking for that front position. As Brian said, a real blanket finish. It's going to the photo, Ewan and Boasson-Hagen, who's got the throw to the line. Look at the bike of Caleb Ewan, just timing it there. It was so tight there, Brian, wasn't it? You had to time that throw to the line absolutely perfectly as you bounced off those cobblestones.
Yeah, a close one in the end. Caleb Ewan takes it for Orica Scott. He ended the Tour of Britain last year with a win, and he starts this year's OVO Energy Tour of Britain with a win.
So, by the tightest of margins on the cobbles of Kelso, it was Caleb Ewan of Orica Scott who took to the podium as winner of the first stage. In the photo finish, it was two-time former Tour of Britain winner Edvald Boasson-Hagen in second and Elia Viviani of Team Sky in third. Caleb Ewan was back onto the podium as the first wearer of the OVO Energy green jersey with that stage win. The overall classification almost mirrors the stage result, with this being the first stage of the 2017 Tour of Britain, except Karol Domagalski sits in third by virtue of intermediate time bonuses. Caleb Ewan also takes the first Wiggle Points jersey, which is all about the points for the stage win. Polish rider Łukasz Ozian is the first wearer of the Skoda King of the Mountains jersey, thanks to his efforts in the breakaway. And his fellow Pole Karol Domagalski once more is in the red Iceberg Sprints jersey, after being in that front group for most of the day.
Well, we knew it was going to be a fast finish. It wasn't quite a full-on bunch sprint at the end. Handful of really quick guys there, though, and they were all beaten by this man, Caleb Ewan. Well done to you, Caleb. It was very close.
Yeah, you know, it was always going to be a tricky final, because obviously you don't want to go too early, because even though it's flat, it's really hard on the cobblestones, and I think if you start fading on the cobblestones, you get swamped really quickly. So I think I maybe left it a little bit late because I kind of got jumped by Edvald, but lucky I had enough gas in the end to come back at him.
How did you find these cobbles? I mean, they're not the biggest ones in the world, but you were certainly bouncing around a bit.
Yeah, I think for a small guy like me, they're not ideal. And I couldn't really go into my usual sprint position either, because it would be too far forward and my back wheel would be bouncing off the ground. So I had to kind of change my sprint position a little bit as well, so that kind of made it a little bit more difficult than usual, yeah.
Janto noticed the route you took.
Yeah, you definitely went the quick line and came off the right-hand side of your lead-out man, which was probably enough to make the difference at the end.
Yeah, you know, I think he saw Edvald coming and thought it was me, so he started drifting right, but luckily he saw it was Edvald, and he saw that I was coming on the right, so he moved left and left enough room for me to come in the inside. So yeah, it was a perfect line, because yeah, I went through the quickest way through the corner, and yeah, that could have probably made the difference in the end.
Caleb, it's been a long old season for you, because you won 4 stages at the Tour Down Under, you won the Sprints jersey at the Tour de Yorkshire, of course you picked up a stage at the Giro as well. How are the legs after today's 190 kilometres?
Yeah, you know, the back end of the season now, I think most people are getting tired, but maybe more so the guys that had to be going really good for Down Under, and I'm feeling it a little bit now, but I think this is probably my last big goal of the season, so yeah, you know, I was training full gas for this, and I'm happy to come away with a win in the first stage.
Stay there, plenty more to come tomorrow. So let's have a quick look now at tomorrow's longest stage of this year's Tour of Britain.
After heading away from Kiel to Water, there are 3 wonderfully named King of the Mountain climbs to contend with: Winter's Gibbet, Cragside and Corby's Crags. The peloton then heads north to the Northumbrian coast and the first sprint in Sea Houses. The day's second sprint is at Warkworth, with the teams continuing south for the final gallop at Seaton Sluice. Then they head to the finish in Blythe.
So Caleb, tomorrow 211 kilometres to look forward to. Not only that, but the stage finishes in Blythe, and the man who won there a couple of years ago was Fernando Gaviria, your nemesis at the Giro d'Italia. How are you feeling?
Yeah, you know, hopefully if we can take anything away from today, that I can still sprint after a long stage, and I think the extra 20 Ks won't make too much of a difference. Well, I hope so anyway. And obviously he's going to know the finish because he's done it before and won it before. So I'll be looking at on YouTube today and seeing where I could beat him.
Got the OVO Energy leaders jersey to defend. Good luck doing that, Caleb. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Janto, thanks to you as well. After today's cracking racing with the fast men right there at the sharp end, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow as well. We're sure to see something very similar into Blythe, or maybe Gaviria, or Caleb Ewan, or someone else. Who knows? Looking forward to it. Do join us for that as well. Bye-bye for now.